Hi, you guys. Welcome to my channel, Life Lessons Learned. Here, I'll be talking about many lessons that I've learned across this entire time of being here on planet Earth. This one would talk about the experience I had and the lessons I learned when I worked in a nursing home many years ago. Actually, at this point, it would be decades ago, but the more things change, the more things stay the same. So I'm going to talk about first how I wound up with the nursing home job at the age of 16. I was, of course, still in high school. And I actually went to a high school that was also a trade school. So, you would also learn a trade. And the idea was for the last 2 years of your high school, so 11th grade and senior year, you would be learning a trade so that you could go out and graduate and start doing that type of work. Now, this particular high school, it was called Murray Wright. So it was in Detroit, Michigan. And there were two separate buildings. So the buildings where they did the trade training, you had to walk probably about 4 or 5 blocks from one building to the other, but they gave you time to do that in between classes. The trade that I was interested in at the time, I thought I would be interested in at the time, was the healthcare field. And they had this class called HST, which stood for Health Service Training. Now, during the last year of your training, you would actually be on the job working. So while you're a senior, you would be in school for 2 weeks and then up 2 weeks of the month. And then for 2 weeks of the month, you will actually be doing the on the job training. So whatever your um, chosen field was, you would be actually working in that field. So this gave you an experience to be able to know if that's something you really want to go to after high school, and into college and with those studies, or if you thought maybe this isn't what I thought it would be. Now, unfortunately, at this particular time for the field that I had chosen, which was the health service training field, the instructor that we had, they're responsible for all of the job placements. So they have to have contacts and be in communication with the places that will be hiring these high schoolers for the on the job training. And, I guess they can only have so many, you know, job openings or slots that will be available. And it was a real job. So you paid taxes, you filled out the form, you had to be interviewed. All of those things still had to occur. And of course, the grades had to be at a certain GPA in order for you to even be eligible for it. So you couldn't, be flunking the class and thinking you're going to get a job. I mean, you can do that today, but back then you couldn't do that. Okay. I'm just going to say that. So, everything was going well, and it was time for us, many of us, to be able to know where we were going to be placed. Nursing homes or hospitals. They have healthcare service training facilities and things of that nature. Anything that had to do with what we had learned, taking, your blood pressure, taking your temperature, your height, your weight, making out the charts for the doctors and things like that. So we were all excited. Well, there were 10 of us who were the last ones that needed to be placed. And our teacher told us, again, guys, remember this is back in the day, so things were quite different than they are now. But she told us she had run out of placements for us. And so we didn't have the jobs, which, it's disappointing. But remember the way that the program was set up, you went to school for 2 weeks and then you went to work for 2 weeks. And since we didn't have a work to go to and we couldn't be in the school setting because those other classes would be there during their 2 weeks, um, she told us we would just have to stay home for those 2 weeks, which is, I mean, when you think about it, most students would be like, yeah, party time. Of course, not me. Remember, I love reading, I love learning, I wanted to be making money. So, about the third day that I'm home, my mother's like, what the hell is going on? Why aren't you in school? And so I told her, they ran out of options for us to be able to be employed, and we couldn't be in the school while the other students were there for their 2-week time frame. And of course, like any parent, she's like, "Oh hell no, we're this is not going to be happening." Okay, so she went to the school, and talked to that teacher, and then she made an appointment to talk with the principal as well. And it just so happens that my mother works in the healthcare field, so she knew, she had communication with different places and everything, and so she made arrangements with the principal to come up with some places that would be willing to allow us to get our on-the-job training from their sites, which was perfect. Now, of course, I did not want to work at the same place my mother worked at. That's a long story, but who wants, I mean, maybe some people do want to work with their parents. I I just thought I could blossom more if I was somewhere else. So, a couple of my friends, my schoolmates, did wind up getting place where my mother was at, which was fine because everyone they knew her, and she was very helpful in getting us these placements. And me and two other students were placed at this nursing home. I'll never forget the name of it because I was like, oh, this is really going to be good. But it was called Friendship Baptist Nursing Home. Yeah, that's what it was, Friendship Baptist, which is kind of weird now. Like, wait, Baptist would be a church, wouldn't it? But anyway, so and it was a very nice, very clean, pretty well run facility. Um, I mean, no issues and no problems, anything like that. At least, not in the very, not in the beginning of anything. So we're working for 2 weeks and we're getting to know the people that live there. And these people were in their late 60s, 70s, and 80s. So they were people that sometimes um, needed help with walking or getting to their walker, needing help going to the restroom and sometimes eating and things like that. Well, and I loved it, the atmosphere. It wasn't far from me, of course we had to catch the bus to get to work, but that's what you did back in the day in Detroit when you were a teen, didn't have a car. Okay. So all of that was fine. And I actually worked the same shift as one of my high school student friends. So we kind of, they would tell us how many rooms we had to be responsible for, how many they call it beds. So she had 8, I had 8, and sometimes we would help each other out if we were running behind or anything like that. Now, I have to be honest with you, I learned some really great skills through that job. Number one was taught you, well, that wasn't a job, but in the school training, we learned how to make up the beds and the way the military does with the mitered corners and making sure everything is nice and tight. Um, at the actual facility, at the site, I learned how to be patient with the patients, no pun intended, and how to interact with the different personalities that we had to deal with on a daily basis and everything. There was this one funny time when my coworker friend that was also the high school student with me came running down the hall, and there was an older patient that was after her. Now, I'm saying after her because they can't run, okay? So she's like walking really slowly, but my friend is running. She's like, hide me, hide me. And I'm like, what's going on? And we'll just say this lady's name was Frances. And my friend said, Frances is after me. I said, well, what did you do? And she said, I didn't do anything really. And I'm like, okay, what does that I didn't do anything really mean? Anyway, she said she was sitting down and I just kind of, for fun, went and tapped her on top of her head. I said, you tapped her on her head while she was minding her own business? She was like, well, yeah. And so then by this time, Frances has gotten closer to us and my friend has taken off again. And I mean, she's older. She just sees someone. So she thought I was the one that tapped her on the head. And she came up to me and she said, I'm going to get you, you bitch. I was like, Francis, it wasn't me. It was someone else. But I got her calmed down and got her back to her room and got her sitting down. And I was like, why would someone tap someone on the head that's minding their own business? But anyway, um, there was another time when, of course, when you're working in a nursing home, people do become deceased. And so if it happens on your shift, and we knew how we were taught on how to, prepare bodies and how to wrap them up and call the, coroner's office and the doctor and that kind of thing. So I did that a couple of times with some of the patients. And my girlfriends did not like that part of the duty, and I get it. I get it. So sometimes they would ask me if it was one of their patients, they would ask me if I, would be willing to help them or do that, which was fine. My thing is if you're learning skills and lessons and everything, the thing to do is to apply them and, it's a circle of life. Well, during this time, the ladies that worked there that weren't students, they gave us hell every step of the way because we were getting paid pretty much what near what their salary was. And they were like, we're married or we're single and we have kids, and these high school kids are coming in, um, making the same money that we're making, and it's just not fair. And I was like, I kind of get it. I mean, we don't have lights and gas and phone and food, and we are, you know, making a check, but we're doing the same work you guys are doing. So I don't know how you can justify making that major difference, unless they have been there for years or something, then I can see people wanting to have had their, salaries increased and things like that. Now, some of the lessons that I learned within this environment did not have anything to do in a negative light with the patients. It had to do in a negative light with the workers. So, as you can imagine, and like I said, this was a really upscale kind of nursing home. So, it was really nice. It was clean. The patients were taken care of. Their family members would visit them often and things like that. But, when family members visit, they sometimes come with gifts like a new robe or new slippers or a radio or, a small TV, things that people buy for their parents and grandparents when they're in a nursing home. And you guys, these coworkers, you already know where I'm going, would steal and rob these patients blind. Their family members will come and go, what happened to the radio I brought my mom? Or what happened to her robe? Where is it? And that frustrated me to no end. First of all, well, anytime anyone does something to someone that's vulnerable, whether they're old or young or whatever, I just it just does something to me. Okay. Um, Second of all, I mean, these gifts were nice gifts, but they weren't things that would like help someone pay their rent. So I was like, so they're just stealing to have these gifts. I mean, I guess that's what people do. I just I'm goofy when it comes to that. I'm like, can't we all just get along? So just to let you know, and I know I don't know what you want to call it. The word snitch is not a good word, and I just don't believe in that word. Either you're going to stand for right or you're not. Okay. So I kind of let my coworkers and colleagues know that if I witnessed, saw, or heard anything about any of them taking anything that wasn't theirs, they would definitely, HR would definitely know about it, and so would their supervisor. Because again, I don't condone that. And if you don't say anything, and you're really well aware of things like that going on, then you are condoning it. Doesn't matter that you're not a part of that, but your silence speaks volumes. And so, so for like my patients, they, you know, they weren't missing a lot of stuff because I would be like, I know who was on the shift before me and I know who was on the shift after me. Now, that doesn't mean that that person would have done it, but they would be aware of something that's going on. So people kind of steered clear of the area that I worked in, and I was fine with that. And we worked there. We, meaning me and my coworker, me and my fellow students from high school, we worked there for just over a year and a half, and it was a really eye opener for me. I learned, like I said, quite a bit. I loved working with the patients. I was able to see somewhat how the health service training area works. And I got a well enough understanding that I knew that I did not want to pursue working in that field. And like I said, it didn't have a lot to do with the patients, but there were other things going on with medications and things that should have been done differently that weren't. And, sometimes you let management know a problem and they're like, and so that was more than, let's say, a few decades ago, more than quite a few. And things have not, as I can see, gotten a lot better. Um, because people are still going to be people. We're still going to have people that are not patient with patients. We're going to have people that take a job because they need a job. It's not because they have an interest in that particular field or are trained in that particular field. They just find, well, I shouldn't say they find themselves in situations because we create our situations, but um, things just don't work out when folks are employed at places that they really don't want to be at and they really don't give a damn about, or they just feel insecure about who they are and where they are and what they should be responsible for. So anyway, but that was a good training experience for me. Like I said, I learned all the things in the high school setting that I needed to learn, and then we were actually put on the job for the actual training. So, and it did teach me not to go and pursue that at the college level. So I was really grateful for all of that. So, again, as you guys know, this is Life Lessons Learned. My mantra is knowledge is in the knowing, but wisdom is in the doing. And again, the proof of a lesson is the application of it. So there is no need for me to, pretend like I still wanted to be in that field and spend another 2, 4 years in college pursuing that. And that's just the nursing home level nurse, what am I trying to say here? CNA, certified nurses assistant level. So I could have still been in the healthcare field at a different level. In fact, I have a sister who has a master's in nursing. So she teaches nursing at the university, or she taught nursing at the university there in Michigan. But she's retired now, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm not in that field anymore, but still, I've worked for many years. So that's that. This is Sherry. If you're interested in any of my books, they are available on Amazon.com. My website is sherrybrantley.com. Please like, share, and of course, subscribe so you'll know when I'm dropping other videos. And please leave your comments down below. I would just like to hear some of your experiences with maybe jobs you thought you would be happy with, and for whatever reason, you found out that wasn't your cup of tea, or the training may have been more than what you'd anticipated, or maybe you just decided to go another route altogether. All lessons that we learn in life are valuable lessons as long as we learn them. Thank you.